Welcome to 2.3. In this section, we want to look at definitions and their purpose. And so shouldn't take a long time for us to go through this. So let's kind of get on a roll here. Parts of a definition. So these words will come up periodically. And the first one, we all look at. I hate the first word just because it's like impossible to say. But a definiendum is a word that is being defined. Okay, so in a dictionary you would look up the definiendum, right? A definiend is the words that do the defining of the definiendum. All right, so I've said that enough in this video already, so I think I'm going to move on. You get the idea. So keep that in mind, and we'll kind of look at some definitional things. So definitional purposes, they're stipulative, lexical, precising, theoretical, and persuasive. And we want to look at each one of these. So a stipulative definition defines a word for the very first time. This is a word that's never before been defined. So let's see, I'll make up a word. I would like you to define the word flimdoggle. So if you were to come up with a definition for the word flimdoggle, that would be a stipulative definition. It's a word that's made up. Nobody knows the definition of that word, and you would arbitrarily, at your discretion, give me that definition. A good example of this would be before 2000, millennial generation was not a word. It was not a term that we used on a regular basis. Yet today, many of the people sitting in this classroom or watching this video or in my classes, the majority of students in my classes would be considered students from the millennial generation, born between 1980 and 2000. My son is a millennial. He was born in 1986. Okay, so it gives you a perspective of a generation or a group of people that we're talking to. So if you were born in 2004, you're not a millennial, okay? Now you're a generation who knows what or something. We don't even know. I don't even think there's been a terminology necessarily applied yet. Some have been discussed, but nothing definitely applied. A lexical definition reports the meaning of the word, a meaning that a word already has, okay? This can be incorrect or correct. It's a dictionary definition. So if you look up the word wombat in the dictionary, it's an Australian marsupial resembling a small bear. That is a lexical definition. It's a definition that comes straight out of a dictionary. Okay? Now, it can be correct or incorrect. What does that mean? Okay, so that has the capacity of being incorrect depending on how it's being used or possibly how it's being defined. Okay, so, but once again, it's a term that is defined by the dictionary. The problem with a lexical definition is that they can either be vague or ambiguous. So let's look at this. A vague definition would be rich. So when someone is rich, they have much money or great possessions. How much money is much money? How many possessions make great possessions? So once again, it's a vague definition because much money is a relative term and a subjective description. The other one would be ambiguous, rich, containing desirable, nutritious, or fattening ingredients. Okay, so that would be a bit ambiguous. Okay, my wallet contains desirable, nutritious, and fattening ingredients. My wallet has a potential of buying desirable, nutritious, and fattening ingredients, right? But you get the idea. So sometimes, even with the lexical definition, it's vague or it's ambiguous, which means we have to definitely put it back in, bring it back into what we talked about in our last video in 1.1 and 1.2, the idea of context. So context is very, very important when we deal with lexical definitions. A precising definition reduces the vagueness of a word and applies it to a particular context. In philosophy, we call this, it would be contextualization. We'd be contextualizing the concept or the idea of where the word fits. So, for the purpose of this study, someone is rich if they own over $1 million in assets and have an annual income of over $100,000. Okay, well that's a lot of people. Okay, there's a lot of people. There are people who have houses and 401ks that easily equal $1 million that have an annual income of $80,000 to $100,000 a year. So that's still very vague, but it does give us a particular context. And now it tells me the parameters of what rich is. It's not much wealth. It's now, I have $1 million in assets. My house and my 401ks equal $1 million. I make over $100,000 a year. That would mean I would be rich. Now, I'm not that person. So I'm a teacher. You got to remember that. So keeping that in mind, for the purposes of this diet program, a food is rich if it contains more than 50 calories per ounce. Now I have a context. It's very, very specific. So what I've done is I've taken a larger definition, and I've narrowed it down, okay? More specific than a lexical definition. So that's one of the things we have to realize, is that now we're becoming more specific because we're taking the definition that was given that was a bit vague or ambiguous, and we're defining it into a context in which it applies. The last one we'll look at, or the second to last one we'll look at, is a theoretical definition. This suggests a theory that gives a certain characterization to the entities a term denotes. So, justice is the interest of the stronger. Light is a set of electromagnetic particles in motion. Okay, now it's narrowing it down, but to you and I, it still doesn't work very well, right? I mean, unless you and I truly understand the concept of justice, we find out that it's a theory, and so therefore there's a lot of variations to the theory. So the example of that's just a characteristic of something. It's not really giving me the definition. So it suggests a theory. Here's an example. What does it mean to be an American? Okay. So that's the first question. Second question, is Obama a true American? Some people say we don't have a birth certificate. So a theoretical definition then would be that Obama is an American. But then my question is, what does it mean to be an American? It could mean anything. Is somebody who's born and at 3 months old, their parents come here illegally and they've been here for 30 years, does that make them an American? They act like American, talk like an American, think like an American, went to schools with Americans, right? So they've been completely 100% immersed in American culture because that's all they've known since they were 3 months old, but that doesn't mean they're an American, right? So theoretical definitions can be a bit tricky at times, so we keep that in mind. Then there's persuasive, designed to engender a favorable or unfavorable attitude towards that which is being defined. So an example would be logic is the study of how to think properly and thereby become a better human being. If we want to be persuasive, we could say logic, the art of reducing everything to its most boring component. Most of my students would agree with number 2, right? So we think of it in that perspective, but I think if we want to go to persuasive definitions, you have to go to page 99 in your text. A couple of examples are given, and I want to give them briefly. Abortion means the ruthless murdering of innocent human beings. Or abortion means a safe and established surgical procedure whereby a woman is relieved of an unwanted burden. Now, both of those are persuasive definitions, depending if I'm pro-life or pro-choice, depending if I think that abortion is right, is moral or immoral, or amoral. Right, and so those are good examples. Capitalism means the economic system in which individuals are afforded the God-given freedom to own property and conduct business as they choose. Or capitalism means the economic system in which humanity is sacrificed to the wanton quest for money. The mutual understanding and respect are replaced by alienation, greed, and selfishness. I think the last one's a bit persuasive. Right? Is it true? I'm definitely a proponent of capitalism. That doesn't make me greedy, nor does it make me selfish, nor does it mean I have a wanton quest for money. Okay, it means I like the capacity and the ability of being able to start a business and sell the business and make money. I like the capacity of being able to take that money, invest it into a 401k or a Roth IRA, and when I'm 65, be able to sit on a beach in Maui sipping a margarita and or a Mai Tai and saying, hey, I can pay for this. Why? Because I invested the money. Am I greedy because I want to do that? No, I'm smart. Okay, so once again, persuasive definition, and I just was persuasive in my definition. Look at and do your homework for 2.3. There's not that many questions to do. Shouldn't take you very long. come to class. We'll talk about it, and bring your questions with you. We'll see you then.